All right. In this video, I'm going to show you all how to make how to make French toast. But this is the way I do it. And so a lot of these things that I make, they're just years of trial and error that I've been doing this. And so what works for me is 5 eggs. So I'm going to go ahead and do the 5 eggs. And I'm using this bowl. Make sure that you're using something that the bread's going to fit in there when it's time to dip the egg in the batter. So I mentioned in another video, it's always good to have the pointy part of the eggs up. Just kind of put your thumb where the crack's going to be, and then you just like lift it off with your thumb. And so let's see if we can do these without eggshells. Yep, awesome. No eggshells in this. All right. Now let me just take a second to wash my hands. All right, so I got my 5 eggs in there. I like to use about a half a cup of milk. And this is lactate milk, so lactose free. The thing about lactate milk is it's usually sweeter than regular milk, but not noticeably so. And so I have that in here. And then the next thing I'm going to do is just add half a tablespoon of imitation vanilla. And so this isn't very potent the way legit vanilla will be. And so I go a little bit overboard with that. And so the next thing I want to do is I actually want to put a little bit of cinnamon sugar, or make a little bit of cinnamon sugar. So it all depends on how sweet you want it. You can definitely skip this step if you don't want to, but I'm just going to go ahead and put 1 tablespoon of sugar. And I always like to mix the cinnamon and sugar together before instead of putting them in separately into the. And it all depends on if you don't like cinnamon, definitely don't use it. If you really love cinnamon, you can overdo it. I just did it so that, it kind of looks like this, a few sprinkles on top, and then just shake it up well. And you can use this for like cinnamon toast or, anything that requires cinnamon and sugar. And sometimes at the store, you can actually find this in a already mixed together in like one of these little cans. So, all right. And I used to work at a diner. What they would do there sometimes is make a little bit of pancake mix, and then they would pour it into the French toast batter, and that would kind of make a heartier French toast. But it's a little bit more like, I guess you'd call it custardy, is what the term is, when you just do it with eggs and milk this way. And so, just like when you're scrambling eggs by themselves, you don't want to overdo it. And it's such a good smell. You get the smell of like cinnamon and vanilla wafting up, and so that's good for now. And the bread for French toast, you kind of want it like a little bit stale, not too much. It's not going to hurt it if you're not using stale bread, but it does make it a little bit better if it is just kind of stale. So I just kind of had them sitting out for a little bit. And before though I put these on here, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start my ham. All right, so I'm just going to use some cooking spray, some butter flavored cooking spray for this one. So I'm going to turn this up, and I'm going to start it off at high just to get the pan warmed up, and then turn it down a little bit. So for this, I'm just using a ham steak, just ham. We're going to do some eggs and some French toast, and so just a breakfast for the family. And so let me try to get these. Usually have trouble with these. There we go. Just going to let this bad boy go into the pan. I probably wanted it a little bit warmer before I started, but this is fine. Ham is a really low maintenance breakfast side, and so that's why I really like it with French toast, because if you want to whip something up in like 5-10 minutes, this is a really good meal for that. And so I'm also going to make a few scrambled eggs. So let me move this out of the way. And it kind of seems redundant, ham with French toast, because they're using eggs for both of these. Oh, and these did not break as well. And so I can hear the pan sizzling, so that's a good sign that it is time to lower that. So I'm going to go ahead and lower it to about medium. It's already cooked. The ham steak like that is already pre-cooked, so you're just kind of warming it up and give it a little bit of flavor by keeping it like in the pan. All right, and I'm just gonna make one more egg. May as well just finish off this dozen that I had here. And so I see that my griddle is smoking. What I'm gonna do now is just turn it down, whoops, to the halfway mark. And let me go ahead and grab something to whisk the eggs with. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to flip the ham. It's sounding like it's ready to be flipped, so let me go ahead and do that. Yeah, so it could have used, I guess, a little bit longer, but that's okay. We'll leave it like that. I'm just going to whisk the eggs up, and I'm going to put just some salt and pepper. All right, and I can't find the salt shaker, so I'm just going to do it out of the salt carton. Not too much. And maybe just a hint of onion powder. I like just a little bit of onion powder in the eggs, and so I'll go ahead and do that. Now I'm going to turn on the stove for the egg, and then just as I mentioned earlier, you don't want to over whisk the egg, so just kind of breaking the yolks and then giving it a whisk. And for this, I'll go ahead and use some cooking spray. I don't want to overdo it with the grease, because that's what I'm using for this. Is actually when I make pork bellies, I will save the grease, because it's actually, you can pay a decent amount for this at the store, or you can just make do with what you have, and it's actually pretty good. Gives the stuff good flavor, but definitely a lot less healthy than like a cooking spray or another type of oil. All right, so I just get my spatula out. I use a paper towel, just kind of soak some of it up, but also distribute the grease around the griddle. And I know this griddle has seen better days. I actually like to take it to work. I'm a teacher, and I will take it to work sometimes and just make pancakes there for breakfast, since I get to work so early. And so let me go ahead and drop the eggs in. The thing about French toast is once it's ready, like, it cooks really quickly. So once you're ready to put them on there, things are going to move quickly. All right, let me give the ham one more flip. Yeah, so you kind of get, and make sure that you get that browning effect. That every time you see something that's got like that brown color to it, it's getting more flavor than if it wouldn't, especially like when it comes to chicken. All right, so let me go ahead and turn this off, and it'll just cook like with the residual heat of the pan. And let me give the eggs a little bit of a stir. All right. And so that's going well. All right, so I'm going to give the eggs a stir. I'm going to turn it down a little bit because I've been multitasking, so kind of losing track. That happens a lot with me when I'm cooking multiple things. So just turning those down. And next, what I'm going to do is start the French toast. And again, French toast will cook quickly. And using one of these griddles, you can use a pan if you don't have a griddle, but using this griddle will definitely speed up the process. All right, so I'm gonna give it just one more quick whisk just to make sure it's all mixed up. And you can see I moved this down to half. I had it up here to high just to get it going. And now that it's a high, I'll turn it down, because you can burn your French toast really quickly. So, and for this, I'm just gonna use my hands, and then I'm gonna wash them after I do this step right here. Let me just give my eggs one more stir before I get to it, just to make sure. Yeah, kind of left them a little bit long. Let me turn that down a little. So I don't like my eggs too runny. I know there's some YouTube videos out there where the eggs are just like super runny, and that's how people like them. I'm not that kind of person, so I'll just let them cook. I'll turn them off right now just because they will continue to cook with the residual heat. And if not, I'll just turn them back on briefly. But I don't want them to get like really dried out. So we'll do that. And like I said, this is cool because the French toast will be done very quickly. All right. So now we see it's important that your French toast, you don't want to soak it too much because then you'll kind of have like a watery center, liquidy center. And so just kind of coat it quickly, put it on there. And so I'm making French toast for the family. So I'm going to go ahead and put a few slices on here. As you can see, I'm not overly saturating the pieces, just kind of getting it coated. Even with this quick like coat of batter, it will still get that custardy taste to it. So, all right, so I'm gonna go ahead and flip these, and really they were just on there for about like 45 seconds before I give them a flip. Uh-oh. It's such a good smell. You have that cinnamon smell, the vanilla smell, the eggs cooking. Let's see what I can do too. Yep, there we go. And so again, you don't want to overcook them because then it gets really hard on the outsides of the French toast. And so if you look over here, so the ham is ready, the eggs are ready, and now this French toast is about to be ready. Let me go ahead and check up on which is the first one I flipped, that one. So yeah, you see it didn't take very long, and now they're pretty much done. So let me go ahead and start pulling these off. And the key to this is just make sure that the heat is not too high because that will definitely ruin your French toast if it is on too high. Yep, see, these are all coming out. Yep, and so here's your French toast. Let me go ahead and plate everything. All right, and so here you have it. Here's a French toast with ham and scrambled eggs. Again, this takes about like 10 minutes to do, especially once you get into the practice of making this. And so yeah, here's our French toast, scrambled eggs, and ham.